Welcome back to Off the Rack Rebellion, the podcast where we talk about costuming and how to take everyday finds and incorporate them into your everyday cosplay. You're going to hear something different today. We've got a guest on. The arbiter of Ferrex Friday, Midrim Rebel, Zach Eskrin. Hello, how you doing?
Hey Billy, what's going on, man? I've actually rebranded. I'm now the Time Grappler of Ferrex Friday.
Oh, I
So
love it. I love it. Of
yes,
course. Yeah,
I
yeah,
I, I told I told the Anvil to say because in case anyone forgets when Friday is, someone's got to do it.
yeah. Even though we are privy to the chat where it's like Friday night and you're like, oh, it's Friday.
And I'm like, shit. Sorry, okay, can I curse in the pod?
Yeah, who cares?
We're like 1 minute in. I've already done it. Great.
who's gonna what are they gonna do? Arrest us? What are they gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, Raimi's not here to stop me either. So
They'd have to find me. Um So today we're gonna be talking about Andor season two, and I know listener we'll probably go back into season one, Kate and I, and talk about and finish that up. There's a few planets and things that we still want to talk about of season one. Season two will probably color those conversations, but today we are talking about the first arc. So episode one, two, and three. That's the only real way to do it. Of Andor season two. So, Zach, Andor season two. Do you like it?
I'm really on the. Of course, I like it. Oh my God, I've been waiting. I mean, come on, man. You and I both. This is what we've been waiting for like it feels like 2 years at this point.
This is it.
And we were. I have not been disappointed, not one bit. I mean, I had this sense of dread leading up to the season two premiere, like especially after doing a recent rewatch of season
Yeah.
one. I'm like, are they really going to be able to meet this bar again? And I was like, what if they don't? I mean, it's like it's
Oh.
very likely. Like, how often does lightning really strike twice?
Mm-hmm.
And they have. I mean, let's acknowledge where we are right now. We're what three arcs in. We're waiting for the last one now,
Yep.
and so far it has absolutely exceeded that level, which
I,
exceeds
is
all
it better
expectations.
than the first? Oh, I don't
It's
know. It's
right. Like it might be. I don't know. Like
I'm won- I'm wondering if these were written. A good writer would have written this story front to back. So while some of these details could probably have changed over time because they have been making this for a number of years, right? I think there's like 7 to 10 years or something that this has been in the works. But
yeah,
um, I think the main story beats they kind of knew where they were going. So I don't think that they wrote season one and then sort of sat on their hands to see how it was received and then went into writing season two. I think it was sort of written at the very least like the bones of it. And
yeah,
that's why we're feeling it's so consistent and so good and a
yeah.
constant ramp up, you know?
And the deeper that we are getting into season two, given that I've just very recently completely rewatched season one, what you're saying is absolutely apparent. Like like when you go back and rewatch season one after season two is over, like references to Gorman are just like so consistently happening
Mhm.
through all of season one. We just didn't notice it the first
You
time.
didn't, yeah,
And so the intentionality is certainly there. And I don't
that's
know
right.
this for a fact. I'm just like glomming from, other podcasts and news sources, but my understanding is that Tony Gilroy originally conceived of it as a 5 season show
Yep.
and then kind of got into it, realized he was way over his head as he started to do the work, and then COVID kind of gave him a reprieve to kind of refine the whole thing. But I think what you're saying is absolutely certain. This was not, oh, let's write season one and like, yeah, we know we're getting season two, but we'll get to that later. Like, no,
Yeah, no
this
way.
was thought beginning to end.
I think if anything, it has been like a like a beautiful like gravy, like any great sauce. It has been reduced slowly, like it was maybe this bigger thing, this longer thing, but ultimately not as tight as this. And that's what I think. leaves our head spinning every week after week is that it's so dense and so richly packed that we're left wanting more, but that's like the best way to do it, I think.
And like any good gravy, it is made from the leftover drippings of the carcass of the main meal,
Yes,
which is
exactly,
real good.
exactly.
But
Sometimes the more
also,
delicious
but
parts.
it's even better than the
It
turkey
is.
itself,
It
man.
is. It is. It is. He was like, "I'll take the bones. That's fine. I'll take the bones and the neck."
Like, let's admit it. We're all really making turkey on Thanksgiving because we want to make gravy. Like that's really what we're doing here. If you're
That's
doing it
right.
right, in my opinion.
No, that's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. Yeah. What a wonderful thing. What I did hear, which I think you'll get a kick out of, you might know already, is that the importance that's been laid on this series uh, really reflects in the runtime because there is more runtime in Andor
Hmm.
season 1 and 2
Hmm.
than there is in episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's just as important as the main storyline. Like,
Absolutely.
as the Skywalker saga, I should say, it is
Absolutely.
just as
Absolutely.
important. And
And
yeah, people will say, well, we got like, I don't know, what, 48 seasons of Clone Wars or something. Like, okay, all right.
okay, okay,
There was a
okay.
lot of filler in that. Like it was great. I loved it. I did, watch all of it. I have watched all of it and rewatched a lot of it. But like, uh, that's yeah. It still doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway.
not to like at least overtly slight any animated content. Like we're talking apples and oranges here with
Yeah.
live action. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just as far as even from a real world business perspective, like budget wise, like those are two
Yes.
very different beasts and mediums of content. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm with you.
So let's get into it, right? Let's we can this could be a whole other thing. And we
Yeah,
should probably
you and I.
this is what I was gonna say. This is what I was gonna say at the start of this is that we should I can't deny Kate talking about this show. So we can't do all four arcs, us two. She's
Yes,
gotta
that's
get she's
a
it's her
different
name on
podcast.
the door. We gotta let her in, right? But
Yeah,
what I will say is that we love to cover Andor. We have it's a glorified Andor podcast, is what this is, week after week. So I think it would be once the series is over, once we've watched the fourth arc, once we've had a little bit of time to sort of digest it, if we do another record and we really just get into story and do that as like a little breakout special episode, we can totally do that. So I'm putting that on the table. If everyone
I,
likes Zach, I like Zach.
hey, we'll see. We'll see how many like you're gonna get so many downvotes from this episode. Like bring back
No,
Hey. No,
no,
but I
no,
would be
no.
honored. I would love to. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah, I
think you
think
and
that would be
I,
good.
that'd be great.
Okay, so let's get into it. So we have screenshots, as always, of some of the costumes and some of the scenes, starting from the very very beginning. So the very first thing that I've pulled up is that Sinar Systems technician who has
Yes.
turned, and it's her jumpsuit. You had a few things that you wanted to say about this jumpsuit,
Oh,
of course.
absolutely. And as you said, I am no substitute for Kate. But the way that we are opening this episode could not be more perfect because I am a uniform guy.
Yeah.
And yeah, you knew it. You knew it. I was going to talk about the uniforms, and I
Yep.
love uniforms. And I think that's, season two, we have so many more interesting permutations on uniforms. And I don't just mean literal imperial uniforms, but
Yeah.
like the uniformity and the way that people dress throughout society, whether we're talking about partisans or rebels or
Hmm.
imperials, corporates or other bureaucrats. And they've just brought so much more to the table on this season. And I truly love a uniform, especially when we're talking about costuming and the meaning that costumes have in
Hmm.
stories, because uniforms are quite literally doing that. They are telling you
Yeah.
immediately in universe language who that person is, and a lot about them. And so, what I love about her uniform, when we take a look at it, and what we see is it's very similar to the test pilot uniform that Cassian's
Yes.
wearing. They have those red shoulders. So clearly that is some indication that we are either whether that color. I don't think it's a Sinar specific color. I think it's supposed to indicate that they are part of this specific division for a
Right.
test pilot.
Probably like a test division, like a
Right.
research and development test, because that's a that's a clean room that ship is in. So it's probably it denotes that. Yeah.
And what's so interesting about how this Sinar technician is dressed is the only difference between her and Cassian's test pilot uniform in color is she has that white instead of the
Hmm.
black on his.
Hmm.
Otherwise, it is a very familiar, the exact same pattern that we expect to see from a TIE fighter pilot or an Imperial Navy bridge crew person, like with the slanted pockets on the chest, the way it goes up, the leg pockets, down to her literally even having the identical Imperial belt that we see everywhere.
Right.
But what's really interesting and what I really wanted to point out here is we go down, if you go a couple screenshots down,
Hmm.
see on her shoulder, she does not wear an Imperial cog
No,
because
it's the Sinar Systems logo. Yeah. Yeah.
she's a corporate technician.
Yep.
Um, and I love that Sinar Systems, that logo where it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like hexagonal claw thing. It kind of looks like the top down of a TIE Reaper, actually. Um,
Hmm.
and I just find that so interesting that this distinction in what they're giving us in Andor season 2 is that the Empire is bigger than the military. There are, and we'll get
Yes.
into that later in the episode, all these other elements of the government, but also, tyranny takes more than just the military. There's
Hmm.
these corporate state. I mean, it's not even a state-run corporation. It's run by the Intergalactic Banking Clan, but they're all part of that military industrial complex that really props up this tyrannical government.
The Sinar Systems has always outfitted what we know as the Empire. I'm wondering if um it was if that company was always kind of Empire run, or did they take it over and revamp uniforms to sort of fit more of an Imperial standard? The only other Sinar ship, which isn't really a ship because it's in atmosphere, the Coruscant Police, but they're part of the Old Republic, and by Old Republic I mean like the Clone Wars time. That there are these in atmosphere. They're vehicles, they fly, of
Mhm.
course, but they can't. They're open on the sides and everything. It's a kind of like a van. It's kind of like a paddy wagon. Um, but they do have the same kind of foils and whatnot. And I do believe they're Sinar. And that's the only other thing that I've seen that isn't part of the Imperial fleet. TIE
I'm
fighters and
looking.
all the variants.
There's some kind of like yacht that I think is from one of the Jedi Fallen Order games that I don't quite recognize. Of course, I'm on Wikipedia right now. I'm looking, but
Yeah,
you're
there
right.
might
Like
be.
Steinberg, like they are the TIE Fighter company. That's what matters
Yeah,
to the story.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. They might make other things, but that is their, yeah. They're the Type Fighter company. So I'm wondering if it was always Imperial, and then like is chicken or the egg? Is do they look Imperial because they've always been Imperial, or or are the Tie Fighter pilots wearing Sinar converted
Oh,
uniforms? Do you know what I
good
mean?
question.
Like, yeah,
Einar built the ships and like, hey, these are the flight suits that your guys need for
exactly,
these little TIE fighter things that we're making you. That's a
exactly.
weird. I like that. That makes a ton.
So I don't know which is which. It doesn't explain why she's got the belt, but it does maybe sort of start to question, like, chicken and egg. Where did this
Well,
flight suit come from?
I think what it tells us, what her having that very imperial element to her costume tells us about this scene, and it tells us about where we are. We're
Yeah.
on the either the planet or the place Sinar, named after the company, named after the person. Um, and while they are an independent corporation owned by the Intergalactic Banking Clan, they're not a government element. This is very clearly a government test facility, or it's some sort of cooperation because our test pilot here, he is wearing Imperial cog. He's not wearing a
Yeah.
Signar logo.
Right.
And it's of course guarded by Imperial range troopers who are very much
Right.
part of the military. So this is a test facility that is being guarded by military elements. And even though it's being run by a corporation, it is that crossover, that nexus of the military industrial complex. And to me,
Yeah.
that's what her having that belt really signifies. We're seeing the similarities, even though they're distinct from one another.
Right. This would, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's a perfect, these are defense contractors, right? Like this is,
Exactly.
they are just outside. They are just a hair outside of the military, but they pretty much are, you know? That's great.
You know, I was watching to take another real world comparison. I was watching the absolutely amazing Oscar-winning Apollo 11 documentary from like 2019, and the
Mhm.
footage of like the command center in Houston. You know, it's a NASA facility. It's run by NASA, but there's just hundreds and hundreds of people there wearing like clean suits, working at computers that say like IBM,
Right.
Lockheed, this, that, Boeing, like all of that. It takes a village to make, big
Mhm.
space booms fly.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Now, what are you getting from, because this is all great. What are you getting from her badge? Because it's obviously
I'm so glad you brought
it's
that.
also it also looks imperial. I clocked it right away and I was like, this is very imperial, but the actual, they're like buttons, what's used for the actual prop. But they're turned on their side, so they're horizontal in orientation rather than or vertical. The buttons themselves, like the red and blue things on the actual badge. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. So do you know where my mind went when I saw that?
Where?
It went straight to Mando season 3.
Okay.
That looks very, very similar. It's not identical. I looked at it side by
Mhm.
side, but it's very evocative to me of the badges worn by the ex-Imperials who are part of the New Republic amnesty program. And
Uh, yeah. What is it?
the
Is it a
color
separate one than than the Arbesh one, the one that's a giant A, or is that the one that you're talking about?
it is,
Because the
it's the
Amnesty
color,
Bast is a it's an Aurebesh A. Well, it's an aura like
it's the color and the material and the
right.
placement of it. And so to me, and so I was reflecting on, I think to me it's the similarities in the colors. It also signifies that this is a civilian, and to
I was
me,
thinking
and that's what I was also thinking about. It made me rethink about that program and the way we saw it in Mando season 3. Like, oh, it's not
mhm,
just for ex-stormtroopers and TIE pilots. It's like all the guys at the Imperial Bureau of Standards. It's all the people who work for
absolutely,
Signar Systems. Like how
absolutely.
massive that social reintegration program would be. It's not. I don't think it's intended to be a literal comparison by any means, but it was evocative and broad in the way that I was looking at it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think I think that's a good shout. Yeah, I think it felt imperial enough to me, but then sort of more um, like not even lower ranking military people, but just sort of something that takes a cue from their involvement in
Mhm.
this the military industrial complex, but then sort of different, but very cool.
It's done in a way where sure it's like it's also evocative of what we expect to see for Imperial officer rank badges, but
Yeah.
cannot be
Also on the
confused with.
Yeah, it's also on the opposite side. So I wonder if all of those things are to completely differentiate themselves, but give them some kind of rank within the company. And when I say rank, I mean like, is this a manager? Is this a senior tech? Is this a, an associate? I don't know, quality control person. Things like
Yeah,
that.
it could be. Yeah, it's like or it could be more like it's funny they use the radiation dosimeters have always been the
Right.
code prop, but she also has. But is that supposed to be an actual in universe like Star Wars
That
dosimeter
could be
type?
good. That's good, and I'm glad that, that you brought up the code cylinders because I think this is the first time we ever see one actually used. Like we know what
Oh,
they are, we know what they're for. We know that they can open doors. We know that they can unlock consoles, like so that they can get into files. We know that they also contain the rank and file of people holding them, right? So it's identification for them as well throughout the buildings. But this is the first time we see one plugged in, not something else slicing into a console, but we see an actual one being used as a key. And I
right.
was like, yes, yes.
Yeah, and then he literally turns it like a key. Now, I would have
Yeah.
loved, I would have given anything for him to have gone a step further and actually gotten to that cockpit and plugged it in like he was starting.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I am convinced
Yeah,
they
there
are.
doesn't seem yeah, there doesn't seem anything like that, is there? Where someone has to insert a thing. Oh, I think well, yeah,
Well,
there
that's
was
what's so
the
funny. In real life, like this may surprise people, but like in most military vehicles, like if you get in a Humvee, like they don't you don't need keys to start a Humvee. That
huh.
you can just push start them. And the same is, I believe, I'm not in aviation, but I think the same is can be said of most fighter pilots, like actually fighter jets.
Okay.
Like you can just turn them on.
Yeah, there's never been anything like that in Star Wars. There was in the High Republic, the books. The for some reason the Jedi starfighters. I'm forgetting the name of the ships. They're very cool, but they're very fast. But they don't turn on unless they put their saber in a thing. And I thought that was okay, all right.
A
But
little
I
captain
guess maybe it
unit.
works. Like yeah, I guess maybe it works. I was thinking maybe it has tied to a Kyber. It's been a while since I read it, so I have no idea. But I do remember that being like a thing, and me kind of like turning up an eyebrow, like, okay, so that's a key as well. Anyway, it might just be for them, very specific. But yeah, just on a side note, and we'll do this throughout the episode, of course. But like, what I loved about the start, this is the very start. I mean, this is like the first 5 minutes of
Coming
this
in
episode, and it starts very. What I love, it's a very boring espionage scene. Like, and I love that. I love the hushed conversations. I love code words, because real espionage work is very boring. And I use the word boring, not as a pejorative, but as a it's supposed to be very ordinary. It's supposed to be very quiet. It's supposed to be very without causing attention, without drawing attention. So them meeting in this break room, him already being in there, him being a test pilot, no one else knowing, him coming under cover of dark, and then having this conversation with this tech, I thought was a beautiful open. It's
Oh,
exactly what I
absolutely.
wanted to
I
see.
think you used the right word when you said quiet because it's not boring. I thought it was incredibly exciting. The tension and the exchange between them. I was more moved by that than the action sequences that followed.
Right.
Um, like especially, and it was so. I know we went off. We got to focus on costuming, but my
We
God,
got we,
here. like the tension between them and seeing Cassian out the gate in the very first scene of this season, he's taken a step in the direction of
Mhm.
becoming that leader. Like
Yep.
he has had his revolutionary arc. He is now
Mhm.
at least morally where he needs to be instead of being a mercenary like he was during Aldani.
Mhm.
And he's being that person to in his own way. He's taking lessons from Luthen
Mhm.
in spycraft and how he's talking to her and being very matter of fact, but he's also taking lessons from Nemec and having that moral
Mhm.
center and how he guides her and tries to make her comfortable and how he literally I love this line. He says, "I'll see you on the road." And
Mhm.
that was not in reference to a literal escape plan for her at
Mm-mm.
all. That
Mm-mm.
is a metaphor. That was
Yep.
the same way that Nemec's talking about his trail to
Mhm.
political consciousness, he's turned that into the road, and it's a
Yeah.
metaphor to
Loved it.
keep motivating her, and it was beautiful. It's beautiful.
Loved it. Yeah, I think Tony does like to punctuate certain scenes and certain arcs with like these sort of big moments, a rousing speech or even a quiet speech. And I think this is going to be one of those sleeper ones where we'll think about this for a while. What this exchange and what he says to her, because there's a lot said and very little, and it does really show his growth as a character, and him moving into sort of being a leader.
Absolutely.
Um, Chaos ensues. We get stormtroopers, we get range troopers. We've seen them all. We've seen them all before. There's things going around where, which I thought was fun, where that range trooper, his helmet. We've actually seen that exact helmet before. And when I say exact helmet, I don't mean the same style. I mean the exact same one has been used on screen. I don't think it's supposed to be the same person
The
or anything
down,
like that. But
literally
I
the
just
weather,
love, yeah,
like
exactly. The
like
scratches on
most
it,
of the
everything
lawn.
is, yeah, are down to the wire. So, they took it off the shelf. They took it off the range trooper shelf. And I kind of like seeing that. I like seeing, it's like seeing an actor reprise a role. I just think it's really great to see a prop again.
Yeah.
um, so we get back to night scene Mina Rao, right? We are
Mina
now
Rao.
we're now with our Ferrex refugees,
There's
and
no other word for it. They are
yeah,
refugees.
yeah,
I love it. Let's
yeah.
go there.
They're on, they're on the run, and they've sort of lost their home, or at the very least access to, and we see some, what I love in anything, and how I tend to build costumes myself, is that I always start with a dress down version. So I like to start my costumes with, what is this person going to be wearing right before they go to bed, or just hanging around on their ship, and then build up from there, because that just feels grounded and more normal for me. And that's what we're seeing here. These are sort of all their undershirts and everything, which I think is great. We don't really get to celebrate them all that much, but I do love. I think that a good costume, should be able to be stripped down to this stage and still read.
I think every listener right now who is interested in Star Wars costuming, which you probably are if you've listened to this amazing podcast, should listen very closely to what Billy just said, because he just said an incredibly difficult truth, which is the base is the most important part when you're putting together a denizen costume, and it's the hardest part, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. It's
Mm-hmm.
like it's really hard to find good base. Like we all, I myself, we start with like the statement piece, and you're right. We should be working backwards, and that's really difficult to do.
I think I take my I'll say that I take my training for this in the year and a half that I spent dressing to go to work in various stages of a costume. It was post COVID. No one was looking, and not many people were in the office, in offices all across the country and across the world. So I chose that as my opportunity to kind of like work on my chops. And I think a lot of the times I couldn't go, too crazy. Obviously, I'm still going to work, but I think that's where I cut my teeth with, like, really figuring out what is the dress down version of this, and then
Mhm.
that's what I sort of pictured it as, and then after work, which is when I would do all of my shootings of photos, like I would have my statement piece jacket or vest or whatever it was, or
Right.
poncho in my
The thing
car,
that
and then throw that on.
Yeah. No, and I mean what we're seeing here when we are when we're going back to the episode, what we're looking at here, which is the first shots that we see of our quite literal refugees who are
Hmm.
now working as undocumented migrant laborers and living in a space van down
Hmm.
by down by the fields where they're working.
Yeah.
Um, we're seeing them, and it's hard because it's dark, but like these are
Dark.
very much their pajamas. Like these are like their underlayers that they might actually sleep in, or that they haven't quite changed
Hmm.
into what they're going to sleep in yet. And just looking at like, I love that
Yeah,
shirt. That
Willman has a collar with no shirt, and it's obviously a button down with a hidden placket. They might have made the placket for the show or found them. You can find hidden placket shirts all over the place. It's a quick and easy way to sort of get something that's a good base. That's always like a search term that I always sort of tell people: hidden placket. That's where you want to sort of find that
Ooh,
hidden half placket, hidden placket.
I gotta write
It's
that down.
yeah, yeah. It's a great way to get, and they're everywhere. I mean, it's not like a rare thing. Like they're made by, you know, by the best designers, or even just the most basic sort of stores. And the search term is hidden placket. And that's I'm sure what this is. Um, Really just a regular button down, and it has that placket. Whether they've cut the collar off or not, this particular one doesn't have a collar, not even a standing collar, not even a fold over collar. It's just a sort of crew neck situation. Brasso has more of a he has a bit of a collar on there, but not anything too high. It sort of feels like a t-shirt, but then with a sort of straight front of the neck, rather than it being like a crew neck. And obviously the shoulders are what make it really sort of stand out. But it's almost like a long sleeve tee.
That's the most unique thing I think about Brasso's shirt. I mean, other than the fact that it's beautifully naturally looking weathering going on there. Like you can tell like this man wears this shirt every day while working in
Hmm.
the fields, like repairing whatever machinery they have. Like this,
Hmm.
it's just like that beautiful mix of like dirt and sweat and oil. But yeah, the most unique thing you said it about is his collar is that, or like really the neck opening is that the very front of it is
Hmm.
really a straight line. Like, so it's
Hmm.
circular everywhere except at the very, very base. From what I,
Yeah.
am I wrong? Like,
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It looks like a long sleeve tee, but with a straight sort of at the front.
and that one little bit just gives it that
Yeah.
swarziness,
I do have
otherworldliness.
to say that in the coming arcs, I think in the very next arc, uh, we do see Cassian and Bix wearing what look like long sleeve T-shirts. So that is not out of the realm. It is something that I have used for bases. I've also used like Henleys. Henleys a lot of times have hidden plackets just right out of the box. Um, is that a lot? I think it's fine.
No, thank you for adding that word to my search query repertoire for off the rack base layers. Placket. Tired of sitting searching for
No buttons.
right. Wait, like you can't search a like that. So like hidden buttons, but that's only going to get you so far. I think I've seen every result on the internet at this point. So
Yeah.
hidden. I'll expand to
Yeah.
that.
It's just that's what a a designer or a seamstress would call it, you know? So I try to look for those kinds of things. A good thing if you're ever caught in a bind and you're like, I know what I'm looking for, but I don't know what to call it, is to look up what would you look up? Fashion illustration of a button down shirt or parts of a shirt. Like look that up and you'll get like maybe a little diagram and it'll show you like this is what this is what a collar is. Like this is a shoulder seam, this is a placket, this is a hidden placket, this is a whatever. Um
Educate thyself. I know. I need to step up my game.
um Another thing, well, yeah, I'm just gonna go off here. Oh, we'll actually see that later, so I'll cover it later. But we also see cuffs, which I think is also a big thing that there's sort of debate over, and I've never really understood it because we've always seen many different styles of cuffs in Star Wars. But anyway, so you picked these next two shots, which is the sort of, what would you call this? Like a tourism
Okay.
board video? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love it so much. So next in the show, we're now on, oh God, what's it called? The what divide, where Krennic is having his
Hmm.
big meeting. It's the first time we see Krennic. And I love this scene so much, again, because I'm a,
Hmm.
I'm a uniform nerd, because we have so many different kinds of uniforms in the same
Right.
room. But
Yeah,
before
this
we
is
go
a
in that,
feast for all different types of Imperials. I mean, I didn't include it, and I'm not sure why. If I just spaced on it, or whatever, but the inclusion of so many different ones I think is definitely a great pick. You were like, "Hey, wait, we didn't we didn't include these." And I was like, "You're right. You're right."
Wait, and if you think about it, we go back to like the source material, like we have in A New Hope, those war room shots on the Death
Mhm.
Star where you have like, oh, we've got guys in, the black Imperial uniform, we've got guys in the olive drab, we've got guys
Mhm.
in, white, Colonel Wolf Yularen from the ISB is there, which they of course retconned him into, which I love, is great. But this is like such an amazing contemporary and nuanced evolution of that.
Mhm.
I mean, this is like, I mean, sorry to take it all the way there to the space Nazi analogy, but like they are coming up with the final solution in this room, and it's like it
They
is,
are.
yeah, it is like this is like it's the military, it's the ISB, which we need to. I love to point out to people, the ISB is not the military. The
They're
ISB is like a
intelligence.
right. There is like they're a militarized civilian intelligence agency. They're
Mhm.
like Homeland Security meets the CIA. Like,
Mhm.
but and so we've got them, we've got guys, and clearly from the shoulder patches here, we're looking at folks from the Tarkin Initiative, and we know why we're in that room. They're in that room. And then even what I love even more is we've got these guys who we find out are from the Ministry of Enlightenment. And those suits are sharp. But I love that.
Mhm.
They're the suits. They're the suits with the smiles who are
Mhm.
there to wrap up their little plans to go farther down the road of fascism, and make it all digestible and go down, the throats
What
of the populace a little bit
And what a
easier.
great performance by them, because like they were so like smug and slick, and like I immediately hated them, but it's like it was so perfect, and it's like it's because they're doing such a great job. They're just so like, "Hey, we know what we're going to do." Like, you know, we're
I
going to
hate
feed
them,
them
but I also
we're going to feed
want
them a
those
story.
suits. Yeah,
Yeah, the
I
suits are
want those
great.
suits so bad. They're yeah, no, they're it's look, the Star Wars Don Draper's walking in the room. He's just walking in the
Yep.
room with the military industrial complex planning a genocide so that we can build a super
The
weapon.
the really sort of sad part about it is that their suits are probably made of Gorman textiles.
Oh,
I'm,
of
I'm sort
course
of
they are.
seeing a similar sort of sheen to them, and I think it's this almost, yeah, this almost sort of woolen sort of sheen that we get in on Earth here for very fine suits. But I clocked them and I was like, I can't believe you're wearing their textiles and describing and planning how you're going to bring them down. But yeah, is that a spoiler? Whatever. If you're listening to this, you better have watched it. This will be
Yeah, you should watch.
blaring
You
spoilers on
should be
everything.
waiting for maybe you should be waiting for, you should clock your Andor watching for when Billy and Kate release the corresponding off the rack replaying episodes. You're doing great. Sorry for the spoilers. Um, but I love, so these suits are magnificent. Like I don't think we've seen anything. It's so like we've seen high fashion before, right? Like
Mhm.
on Coruscant. But this is like, and then we've seen a little bit more modern, like modern refined looks, which I would describe as like a lot of what like Cyril or his boss at the Bureau wears,
Mhm.
but not this elevated in between the
Mhm.
two. And to me, that just represents just like how American Psycho, Patrick Bateman, how Don Draper, Mad Men, these guys really
Yep.
are supposed to be in their role in the story. Like these guys are just like the coolest of the cool, the slickest of the slick, if you're into that kind of thing and like, mainstream
Yeah.
like values. Um, and I love, I don't know if you guys have ever talked about it in the past. We saw a lot of these in episode one, and Cyril often wears them in his suits, but these ties that we have
Yep.
now just established as being Star Wars ties,
I
where
love
it
them.
ends before the collar, has the little metal clip up top. I have no idea how that works. If it like
It's not a
tucks,
clip.
it's
It's not
not.
a
What
clip.
is
It's a
metal?
window. It's that the
It's
tie
going
is
into the
coming out of
shirt.
it. Yes. The
I
tie
love
comes
it.
out of that little window. It's a little window. I love
Where is
it.
it
I love
coming
it
from?
so much. I have no idea. I would
Is it wrapped
assume
around
I
their
would
body?
assume no, no. I would assume that there is no actual like tie. There is no knot anywhere to the tie. I would assume, if I was like making this, who knows if we're ever going to be able to see one of these shirts open in any kind of way. But I would assume that the end of that tie is sewn into the collar. and then so onto the inside of the collar, and then it comes out that little slit. It's like a little slit, like a little window that's like nice and adorned in a metal sort of what looks like a clip, what looks like a tie bar for us, right?
Uh-huh.
And it comes out of there and then just hangs in the front. Yeah,
Have we ever
yeah.
seen the bottom of one, like when Cyril's
No,
dressing or something? Because
no.
I was gonna say, what this is even more bizarre. What if it was connecting to like the belt, like from the outside and the
Oh,
inside? Like, I know it
that
makes
would
no
be
sense.
weird.
But of course, it's Star Wars, so
I
what
we
I just
we've never seen it. We've never seen him in motion so that we can see it move or anything. What we do know is that it's civilian. My idea is that, or my theory is that it is a squared off tie, which exists here. So there's no point to the tie. That's what I think,
like
and that it
ripped
just
it.
hangs. Yeah, that it just hangs.
Yeah, yeah, that kind of square
There
tie
might
from.
be there might be a clip or a tie bar that keeps it tight to the shirt. But I think it just hangs. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I love them, and
I
if
love them
that
so much.
this is my new white whale for Star Wars costuming. I want
Yeah,
to have a super slick Star Wars suit.
yeah.
Um,
I'm glad that I broke that to you because I think yeah. Unless these are no. Yeah, you could see in the shot that we have here. Yeah, they come out of the. I loved it when I first saw Cyril with it. I was like, that's a little window. That's a little slit, and that tie comes out of it, and it's brilliant. I don't know why we've never done that on this planet,
right.
but it's a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant little like solution to a tie. Um,
A little window to their dark little souls. Uh, and they've also got these symbols on their jackets. So then to me they look like little metal USB drives that are oversized.
right.
Um, but and I love them. They're so simple and straightforward. There's no writing, which I
Hmm.
love. It's just very basic, but it stands out. But presume, of course, this is some sort of symbol that they belong to the Ministry of Enlightenment.
Right.
Um, but yeah, and then in this room where we have what are these civilian propagandists,
Hmm.
we see several members of the ISB representing, the security Gestapo of the Empire. We see members of the Tarkin Initiative, who are some sort of, quasi government scientists.
Hmm.
Uh, we see an Imperial officer with the orange and red rank bars, which we have established from the Colonel and the Aldani heist. That means he's a member of like the Army Corps of Engineers.
Hmm.
So he's sort of like that military equivalent of some of these Tarkin guys, I would say, to draw that comparison. And then, of course, we see some more traditional Imperial officers with the blue, exclusively blue rank bars, which I'm going to take as suggesting like that guy's like naval intelligence. They're like the
Right.
military side of the ISB. I'm pushing here because the rank bars in Star Wars are super inconsistent, but I think we have good clues from the past season to follow here. And like you mentioned at the beginning, they're bringing up this like yeah, this very 1950s newsreel style um travel propaganda marketing video for
Yeah, it's like a
Gore.
tourism board, like Gorman tourism board. Like
Amazing. And it's like if
it
you
even
take
has
away
that old newsy like "Welcome to Gorman," and
yes. Oh
here
my
you
God, the
will
minute
see. Like,
these spiders are hard at work spitting material across the galaxy. Like, yeah, I love it.
yeah, it's
I
great.
wanted to
It's
start
great.
producing like parody Star Wars videos in this tone, like about everything
Yeah.
from now. That might be my new site.
In it we see what I think are not only modern Gorman people, but this guy with the horn sort of feels like a more traditional and sort of look. And it's very kind of like Ricola man
Yes,
with the
it
horn.
big
Yeah.
Austrian Swiss
Yeah.
vibe, and
Yeah.
I'm so glad we brought this up because like once we dive into that arc and we go to Gorman, I'm just like, oh, it's Space France.
Yeah.
But no, having this really sets it apart, like, and gives it that kind of pan-European, because we
Hmm.
go from this shot, which is feels very Swiss or
Hmm.
Austrian, and then we're going straight into the next shot, which is showing some a patron at one of the many fabric retailers on
Hmm.
Gore, like trying on different things with these beautiful reams of fabric behind it, which all looks very much like what people are then wearing in later in these
Hmm.
episodes, Chandrillin Wedding. Um, which that scene to me gives me more France, Italy vibes, and I love that they, it still leads with that kind of French first score as we go on, but the fact that it incorporates all of these elements and makes it a little more universal in that way, I think is great. But yes, I love the horn. I couldn't let us not bring up
Not talk about it. Yeah. um, yeah. I've always liked this little detail, but fabric when it's on what I would think is a ream, right? Like reams of paper. They're actually called bolts, which I think is really
Oh,
cool. I don't know why. I'm assuming that's part of some long lost like process of it. But I don't know. I just like that, and then like blaster bolts, and then bolts of fabric. There was something about that
ooh.
when we were in Gorman, and then later on with the Gorman massacre, that, that there was something in my head pinging around about like, oh, bolts of fabric like versus bolts of blaster bolts. Anyway,
It starts with
um,
bolts and ends with bolts, man. Yeah,
exactly.
that's the strategy.
So then we start on this what seems like a 2 to 3 day wedding on Mothma's daughter, Lida. Um and what I was picking up here, which I always pick up from the Chandrillan sort of vibe, is that it almost it's very Nordic.
Interesting.
It's very Nordic. It's very Norway. There's a lot like the braids, the
The
tradition of
hair.
the braids for the young maidens, and then we'll see in another little screen grab they kind of mirror that for the boys as well. Um, it feels very Nordic. Obviously, they're taking cues from like they're taking some sort of Asian cues in their with their wrapped sort of kimonos and things
The
like
big
that,
circular sleeves.
but I
Yeah.
think in color and in like I don't, there's something about it. Cut color, like the sleeves on Mon Mothma when she's talking to these one of the guests and Perrin is in the background. That sort of diagonal cut to her sleeve
Mhm.
feels very Nordic to me. The pleating also takes it out of like Asia and into somewhere else. So they're obviously they're mixing cultures, and we see that we see that on Gorman. We see it everywhere, right? It's an amalgam of all these different things, but it feels very Nordic. Even yeah, Askren.
Yeah.
I always want to
No,
say
no, no, Erskine,
Askren.
Erskine.
No,
I'm
Erskine.
Erskine.
Yeah,
I'm Erskine. He's Erskine, and I did not know
Erskine.
that there was a character named that when I came up with that.
Well,
I'm
that's his
sorry.
first name, so it doesn't matter.
Is it?
You know what I get made fun of in this household with my very cool wife, who is totally not a nerd. She was like, "Really? They made a show about Andor? What does he go to Andor? Like, what is that? What is that?" I just felt like I was being poked in the chest and like
Yeah.
about to be shoved into a locker, and I was like,
Oh,
"I don't know. I didn't make the rules."
I'm so sorry. Blink twice if you're being bullied still, Billy. Let me know. Uh,
I like it.
but
I like
that's so
it.
interesting that you pointed out the Nordic influences around their hair. That's not. It's never. I hadn't thought of that. I think you're totally right. And what's
Mhm.
interesting about this is we've seen a lot of Chandrillan style, but this episode, these scenes are the first time we've seen it in the context of on Chandrilla.
Right.
And I had thought, I think you're totally right about the Nordic, especially around the hair vibes, especially with the girls and the traditional girls like
Mhm.
her daughter is and her what I can't remember, they're like peer maids or something they call them,
Right.
like her little posse, that are all into the old ways. Because I think there's a
Mhm.
very interesting dichotomy, and we see it through this arc, and we've seen it before also at the embassy, between traditional Chandrillan and
Mhm.
contemporary Chandrillan.
Yep.
Vel is outside of the wedding, especially. She is contemporary Chandrillan.
Mhm.
Mon herself is usually contemporary Chandrillan too. And then you have Perrin's a little more traditional, where he's like always has a ton of layers, always has big billowy sleeves and a big billowy silhouette. And the daughter, of course, is like really that rocked, showing that other
Hmm.
side, that extreme. And when we see like going from these shots where the daughter and her pyramids are looking at her dress reveal,
Oh,
out to the
amazing.
exterior shots, where this amazing long single take where Mon is juggling, trying to, updates on the rebellion with greeting guests at her daughter's wedding, is we consistently see, um, the primary colors are always around these
Hmm.
blues and these golds,
Hmm.
and whites, and very, very stark whites too, I would say. The
Although
base.
I would also. It's interesting once we see the entirety of the show because I'm already sort of clocking it from the trailers and stuff. But this blue and this gold, or what I call this kind of almost a hay color. I know like there's literal gold Mon Mothma is wearing, but like it's almost a hay color. It's almost a was a blonde kind of hay color, and it's repeated throughout the series in many different planets because we do see it on Mina Rao as well, and it's that
Oh,
blue and that hay colored. Also, with all of the well, we're not going to get there in this episode, but the rebels on Yavin, uh, and the rebel Marines are in these tans and blues and this sort of hay color. So that's it's a running kind of thread throughout the series. I think it's intentional to show. I think this I'm getting a little too heady, but this second season, I think the thread is showing how everyone is handling the empire stepping on their necks and also the rebellion. So the story is being told through color and making everyone full and common through color, from rebel fighters to people in farming towns to the very highest echelon of society.
I'm very interested to hear where you go with that take once you start talking Orban. Very, yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
But
Oh, that's the only place I think we don't really see it because Gorman is very different. But yeah.
right, I mean, they're very Parisian or New Yorker in that way.
Hmm.
It's a lot more black.
Yeah.
Um, I love this. Yeah. So, and what's interesting, so what you're saying about the gold versus the hay, I think also a lot of that comes down to, uh, how dressed up the individual is at that time. Um,
Hmm.
like, because I mean, we see Perrin get dressed up, but like in this first shot, like he's a little more dressed down because the ceremonies haven't started yet. So it's like
Right.
he doesn't have his fabrics don't have any shine to them, which he
Hmm.
very much does at events. It's a little more of a, I mean, you know fabric terms better than I.
It's just a
What
matte. It's
would
just a more muted tone. It feels to me like it's almost they're almost like wool. They're almost woolen rather than being like a sheen or a satin. You know.
I was gonna say
Um.
because that's my default. Oh, it's linen.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, right. I do think that a lot of the fabrics that we're seeing, when I say fabrics, I don't mean like in universe. I mean like in the costume department. What we're seeing are very light um, uh, weaves of wool, and a lot of people have been sort of messaging me and saying like, and I don't know why you message me. Like, what are you trying to do? Like, what? Hey, there's jeans in Star Wars. There's denim in Star Wars, and I'm like, okay.
they're
What do you
trying to
want me to
break
do
you.
about it? Like, what do you
Trying
want
to
me to
break
do
the
about
soul.
it? Like, yeah, what do you want me to do about it? And in looking at it, because what that makes me do is like, okay, so let me explore this. If it is, then that's great. There's something else that we can explore. But I think you would have noticed looking at the doc, there's like a random photo of a man wearing a shirt. And it's because I think the Mina Rao denim is actually a denim weaved wool, which is a much lighter, much breathable, fabric. It makes more sense for a person working out into in the fields to be wearing a wool shirt than it is to be wearing denim. Denim is very heavy. Denim is very dense. It doesn't breathe very well, but wool does. And I know when we hear wool, we think of winter. We think of like
Right.
warmth. But that's, a more sort of fluffier, thicker wool. You can weave it to look like denim. Denim is really just a sort of crossed over 1-to-1 weave, something like that. But you can make wool. They sell wool shirts all over the place, and the what they advertise when you buy a wool shirt is that it's super breathable, moisture wicking, and if you're prone to sweat, and that shirt will never show it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And the wools, these wools, they hang heavier than like say a linen,
No,
something.
they hang lighter than a denim
Really?
shirt. So like I would take a denim like a denim button up shirt, which we've seen time and time again out in the world, and a wool shirt, and to the naked eye, to the untrained eye, they might look almost exactly the same, except one will feel heavier, and that will always be the denim one. One will move much easier and have a bit more of a drape, and that will always be the wool. And that's why when I was looking at that, I was like, that does not look like denim to me. Denim doesn't move like that. You can get very lightweight denim, and you can get it to sort of move like that, but it don't move like wool. It just doesn't.
Right. But it has more weight than say a linen, which would give
Yeah,
like
absolutely. Yeah,
texture, but would be too light and not hold shape in the same way.
exactly.
Okay, where do you want to go next?
We see Luthen the first time we see him. He's in his plum sort of outfit. We saw this outfit in season one as well. Um, a lot of questions were coming up around. I did include her. Oh yeah, no, she's here. Clea, why she never changes her clothes, and it's because her cover is that she's his assistant. So she's in uniform. So she's not um, a guest. She is his employee at this
Right.
event. Yeah.
I have a metaphorical take on that I was thinking.
Hmm.
I referred to this Clea outfit, which is the only outfit she ever wears, with the exception of the later arc when she finally gets her glow up, as her space nun uniform. And I was thinking about that, and I think to me, I think there's like, in addition to like the real world, yes, she is his like secretary, assistant, whomever. That's her cover story. But I think more metaphorically, what it tells us about her character, both her and Luthen, as like the co-spy masters of Luthen's network, they kind of live a monk-like existence, where their whole life is just the job. Everything they do,
Hmm.
they have no life outside of the job. Everything
Hmm.
is in service to the cause and their goals. And even more so than Luthen, because Luthen in his role gets to be the face of it. He gets to be the one to
Right.
pretend to have fun. He gets to have all the external relationships. Clay is the back of the house. In a sense, she's even more monk-like than he is, and
Hmm.
more. And I just thought I thought that was interesting. Like, and it's like, of course, she dresses like a space nun. She like
Yeah.
lived like in a covenant of rebellion. Like,
Yeah. I like that. I like that. I like that. No, definitely. So we've seen both of their costumes. We've seen them before, but I love this like plum outfit on Luthen. Um, it's just great. It is what I think of when I think of Luthen out in the town. And so why would he change it, right? He's the kind of eccentric art dealer. He's not a society person per se. He's you know, he deals with all these people because he's the person that procures things for them since they don't have any taste. So
I
we're
think that
back on Mina Rao.
helps him get into the mood for his hand gestures when he's
Oh yeah, yeah,
doing
yeah.
it.
Yeah. So back on Mina Rao, we're back with Willman and Bix, and again, you see this is what I was talking about. It's sort of that hay color, and we do cut right from one to the other, and we see the blue of Willman's shirt. I do believe that might be the same shirt that he slept in. Boy, get a shirt. And the hay color of the hay or grain or whatever that might be. Grain, yeah, because they did say they were grain silos, and grain does exist on in Star Wars. So, um,
Canon.
yeah, we buy popped grains at Batu. Um, so yeah, this shirt and what Brasso is wearing is what I think are this wool material. They're just a hair lighter than what the equivalent would be in denim, but still have the same sort of look because it's woven exactly the same way.
What do you call that pattern? That to me it looks like what I think of as like corduroy on Willman's button-up blue shirt.
This is it's flat, so it isn't actually corduroy, but there
Oh,
is
really?
a yeah, I think it's flat. Yeah, there is no.
It looks
I
it
looked
gives
on the
the
shoulders, and that's where you would see like the bumps. You know,
it gives an appearance of
it's not.
texture so well, even if it's not really there.
It does. This would be a actually the collar does have a little bit of it. So I think this might be some kind of. So I think the collar is different than the actual shirt. I would call this I don't know like a seersucker material, seersucker pattern. You can weave denim in this way and wool in this way. It's just a little too inside baseball, but you weave one line and then reverse it and weave the other line. And you don't have to reverse the weave or anything like that. It'll just do the same because one side is always going to be lighter than the other. If you look at your jeans, the inside of
Oh,
your jeans are lighter than the outside of your jeans. So imagine they're just alternating them. If you look really
I see.
closely at any of your jeans, that denim weave, there are lines in it always, except that they go diagonally. And then this way, they would just be going straight rather than diagonal.
Billy,
Yeah.
I don't wear jeans because denim's not Star Warsy enough. So no.
Neither do I. I don't have a single pair. But yeah. But yeah, I
We
do
give a
think that
shout
that
out
might
to
have
this.
been.
Sorry, go
Sorry.
ahead. I was gonna say I want to give a shout out to this button on his shirt that we don't see.
Uh, yeah, I knew someone was gonna call that. Um, I'm getting an idea now that because we do see snaps, we've seen snaps before, we've seen them in as far back as the OT, I believe. So snaps are okay. Snaps I've always found to be okay. Buttons are the big sort of contention, but I do think it is the specific sort of button with the holes on them, like a standard button that I
Yep,
think is too earthly. Something
I
like this is like
completely
completely
agree.
weird.
Yes, that's what I want to give a shout out for is like it's got this weird geometric shape to it. And you know what? That might not actually be a button. To your
I
point,
think it's
that
a
might be
latch.
or I was gonna say an ornamental top to what is maybe a snap underneath. Like
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, I like this because I avoid in my costuming, I avoid buttons like the plague. Like I don't
Yeah.
want to ever use them. And certainly not anything that's like a traditional button with three holes that's held on by thread because I can't unsee Earth when I see that. But this was so interesting to see something so clearly, but it was also so unique and so different. And that kind
Yeah.
of just like opens up the door for what we do is like if you can make it weird enough, it can work.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm always looking for weird stuff. Because you never know. um then we get Wilman's girlfriend. He's got a
Literal
girlfriend who's
farmer's
also wearing
daughter. Dude,
she's
you're giving Willman crap for not changing his shirt, but you know what? I think Petey Pipe Bomb's doing all right, man.
I think he's doing all right. I think he's doing all right. You just rub a little bit of grain on in your neck, and maybe it smells nice. Smells like the fields.
The ladies
Um,
love it.
she's also wearing this same material. Not the material that he's wearing, but the material that all of the overalls are made from. It could be denim, you know, could 100% be denim. If it is, it's the lightest denim I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I think more likely than not, it is a full denim. It is a denim weave because denim, like G material, is cotton woven as denim. It's a weave, not a fabric.
yeah. I mean, it looks like the way it's sitting on her, like it looks, it's just very, it's structured but flowy and like it would have some
Mm-hmm.
stretch that you can move in it. And as a person who clearly works in the fields or with machinery, That would be
That's
very necessary.
that's what I'm thinking. I just think if I'm out in the fields all day, I want something that's breathable. I don't know how like I don't know how the sort of dungarees and jeans are like a thing because they're very hot. They do not
Right.
breathe.
And
They're
Mina
very
Rao, the fact that everyone we see on Mina Rao like has their sleeves rolled up, and I don't know if that's just a metaphor for them getting to work or if it's
Mhm.
supposed to literally be indicative of the environment. It doesn't seem like a cold place. It seems like a very, very
Right.
temperate place.
Right.
I'm presuming there's some nice breezes to make those fields move and be cinematic, but it seems fairly warm. They're always eating
Hmm.
outside in community. Like they're never wearing they're layering, but they're not wearing like jackets, you know?
Right.
So yeah, it would have to
Yeah.
be
There's a lot of what
incredibly
I call shackets. There's a lot of shirt jackets, open
a lot of
shirts, heavier. Yeah, me too. Open, like a sort of heavier than a shirt, but lighter than a jacket. And that's perfect for like spring, summer, and whatnot. You
it,
know.
you can see that Shacket DNA that goes back to Ferrex, back to season one.
Yeah.
Shackets are, of course, they had lots of overcoats too, because that's supposed to be a cold place. But I
Yep.
love how Andor costuming has really brought the Shacket into the mainstream of the Star Wars visual language.
Yeah. And then we come to this band of who knows, right? I don't wait, you know the name of their gang.
Oh
What's the
yes,
name of their gang?
we later find out the Maya Pei Brigade,
Maya Pay Brigade.
which is one of the many, many, many proto-rebel alliance factions that are out
Right.
there, going back
Like the
to
Cloud Riders. Like the,
yeah, even just going back to Saw's little monologue in like season one, like who's like Krieger's a separatist, Maya
yeah.
Pei's a neo Republican, the
Yeah.
partisan alliance
Yep.
lost all of them. I love that he lists all of them, and we're seeing them. He even lists the Gorman Front when he's doing that too.
Yeah, he
Um,
does.
so I always and I'm so curious, like what do we think a neo Republican is in terms of like political views, like do they hold the views that become the New Republic, or is that just a coincidence in name?
Mm,
Regardless, they are the Maya Pei Brigade, and so they are the followers of this mysterious, even more mysterious than Anto Krieger was in the first season, where we actually saw him. We don't know anything about Maya Pei,
mhm,
but it's insinuated between these partisans of her brigade that she is perhaps dead, and they've just
mhm,
launched a major attack where they said they lost like 7 ships or something like that. And these are the survivors, and they've hidden
mhm.
themselves on this planet that starts with the letter Y. Um, and absent a leader, absent that cult-like figure that they were following, Maya Pei, this is probably a similar figure to Anto Krieger, or Saw Gerrera, or Luthen Rael.
Mhm.
Um, they are just turning on each other, and I love it because the same way that Saw makes it clear that all these proto factions are unaligned with each other, and that's what the
Mhm.
whole show is leading to, is
Yep.
Mon Mothma giving us that unity, that cohesion to have a rebel alliance with a capital
Mhm.
A, and that this their infighting in this arc is like a microcosm of that.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think of it as an oven that heats unevenly, like a pizza oven, you know?
mm,
Um, we both spent time in in
well, they
in
are
in the
all
city,
half
right?
baked. These guys.
Yeah.
Uh,
Where there's hot spots in the oven. Like eventually if you leave things in there long enough, the oven being like the oppression, if you leave things in there long enough, it will all burn. Right now it's an oven with hot spots. Some spots are cooler, some spots are burning much brighter. Some spots are perfect for cooking a pizza, you know, and then some spots will be half baked, right? Half baked, like maybe this brigade is. Um, so that's what I like to sort of see it as. Eventually, it'll all sort of burn brightly.
and
But
looking at how they're dressed, I mean, I think is a metaphor that like they all rebels throughout Star Wars have individuality even when they're in uniform, but
mhm,
these guys are just so far from being even close to like the tiniest bit of unified in
Yeah.
anything that they are wearing.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's highly intentional. There's literally no standardization. The only thing that I mean, obviously it's all in the visual language of Star Wars. There's a broad color palette going on here, but they've
Hmm.
made it look varied enough that it's supposed to, I think, intentionally haphazard.
Yeah.
Um, like they look like their color palette is less uniform. Tell me if you disagree, but I think their color palette is less uniform than our heroes are on Mina Rao.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're completely random. I mean, I think in a cinematic way, they have sort of they have sort of used like analogous tones to kind of band this like disjointed like group together, but at the same time like make them very different. None of them have this like same two blasters. None of them have the same two equipment. None of them have the same two like fabric of jackets or even cut of jackets or length of the very first image that I pulled for them. There's three separate hats in one shot that none of
Yeah.
none they're none of them are the same. There's one that looks like a Sherlock Holmes hat in there. So it's very weird. The only unifying thing is this use of, and even though muted, we are still seeing a little bit of that cold and warm that we see throughout, that we see on Chandrila, that we see on Mina Rao. I'm still picking up the general sort of color palette of it being this blue and this sort of blonde color. Um,
Right.
it's
Just
still
enough to
it's
keep
still apparent.
in series,
Yeah,
like
just enough to sort of make the series cohesive, but also like I think metaphorically, the fact that these are duller, darker, dimmer, is also maybe attached to the type of character. So Mina Rao, they're all very, it's all very bright. The grading of those scenes are very bright and very light in colors, near pastels. Like the skies are pastel blues. The fields aren't actually yellow. They're like a champagne color. Like they're sort of dialed in that way. Here, much darker. In Chandrila that we saw, they're much richer, more jewel tones, yeah, literal like looking richer.
Mhm.
Um, more luxurious. So I think that's what we're sort of playing at. I pulled a lot from these people just because obviously, like, I'm loving this sort of weird, sort of squared that kind of looks like two tubes' coat. Who knows what that is, what material that is? I'm searching for that now.
Wait, which one are you
Um,
on?
there
Which
is
story?
the very second shot we see in the very foreground, someone with a
Mhm.
sort of kind of like a big coat, and
Oh,
it's these giant squares.
it's like a
Um,
net.
it's almost like a net, but it's a whole sort of thing, and two tubes. One of them, I think, two tubes, wears a coat that's a similar fabric to this. It's kind of got a shine to it, so it's almost like it almost feels synthetic to me. It almost feels like it's like, I don't know, like a parachute that they've turned into or
Yeah.
something like that, right? It doesn't feel like it's a textile for fashion, for, clothes. But anyway.
Yeah, they're not afraid to have synthetics mixed into this group. We see a couple shots later, like the one guy looks like it's like a straight up rain poncho material, which
Yep.
I'm
Yep,
sure
yep,
he
yep.
was
I
very
think it
thankful.
can be. I think it can be used. I think we have seen it. We saw it on Pharynx a lot. That sort of uh, kind of bubble jackety kind of material, also sort of windbreak material. This very same photo that we're talking about, the guy on the other side of the frame, that's a windbreaker. That's just a windbreaker. It's weathered, of course. And they're weathered and they're waxed in a way make them look very different, but uh, they are what they are. Um, there's a, there's a lot of them in here that we see.
Just interesting. Going to the fourth one down with the
Hmm.
woman who is the woman on in the faction who apparently is the only one who is the closest thing to a pilot. We
Right.
see we see some familiar stuff from Star Wars in this shot. Her goggles are the
Hmm.
same goggles that we of course know from The Rise of Skywalker.
Hmm.
And then the partisan on the left of her, who I understand is holding a salt bug shooter. That's actually, you know what I'm talking about? Those like
Yeah.
you look at salt and you kill flies with them. That's what his
Yeah.
blaster is. But that's not what I
Oh.
want to point out. His belt, that is a very familiar, very, very familiar. If you've ever done any OT
Hmm.
Rebellion cosplay, that is the pilot's belt for an X-wing,
Okay.
or you have a hangar technician with that very familiar buckle style from the 1970s.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, surely they're sort of pulling from those references because we're nearly there. You know,
Yeah,
time
right.
wise, we're what is this? 3 years out, 4 years out from an organized rebellion. So we're nearly there. So
Yeah,
I'm
this guy
sure
doesn't
that
know it.
they're
He's Yavin trend setting, I think. So
yeah. Yeah. First on, and he's got the belt. Um, oh yeah, just below that, or yeah, just below that, there's that shot of that coat again with that weird kind of like netting on it, but it isn't netting. It's like, God, it's almost you know what it looks like to me? It looks like the inside of a quilt, where all of the squares are joined, and you're seeing all of the
hmm
seams of it, because it's texturized, and it's very similar to Two Tubes' thing. Just behind him, we get something that looks like a proto pilot here.
that's
This
a
guy with a
hundred
sort of
percent. Yeah,
yeah.
that is the white vest of a rebel pilot, just with a
Hmm.
lot of really amazing weathering. Almost, he's
Hmm.
got some sort of greeble that almost looks like a droid restraining bolt on it. I know it's not supposed to be
Hmm.
that, but it reminds me of that. And these beautiful white. They've added some fabric, so it's actually different. It looks like different colors of fabric,
Hmm.
to set it apart from that classic OT rebel pilot look, and
Yeah.
really gives it that partisan feel.
Oh, and the guy next to him has another set of those goggles. I didn't notice because they're sort of black with a spot of red on them,
Yeah,
which is
totally
that sort
different
of
color.
slit goggles. It's great. There's this. These scenes are so rich. I've been poring over them, as you can imagine. Like,
This is eye candy for you and I who love partisan stuff. Like we could just
oh
take
yeah,
endless inspiration from here.
yeah. There's a just underneath that and to the right. We see that guy that you were saying has almost kind of like a rain poncho. I love this. I love these three here because they're very, very different. And there, the guy on the far right, you see that it's just kind of like it's kind of like a windbreaker jacket. I do believe I have a Levi's jacket that looks very similar to that, but it's waxed to like to a crazy degree because you
Yeah,
could
it's
see
got that.
sort of shiny parts of it and other parts that are matte. Which is when you're guys out there when you're waxing, don't wax the whole thing. You gotta do some dirty, some clean, or else it just all reads clean again. Like you just change the color of the thing. Anyway,
You're talking about this guy on the right with the diamond quilted pattern on the olive
yes.
jacket.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's that diamond quilted pattern. We saw so much of that in Ferrex too, and
Hmm.
it's very evocative of the underlayers of military surplus from the 20th century.
Hmm.
That's the underlayers of field jackets that would be worn as
Okay.
warmth, and so a lot of that we they pulled a lot of that for Ferrex too, and I love that
Hmm.
that's become such a part of the visual language in Andor
Yeah.
too, because I think it's accessible for costumers looking for off the rack stuff. And if you
Hmm.
go, you can find really interesting takes on it with different patterns and different closure styles from different countries, and kind of
Yeah.
bring that into your Denizen cosplay.
Yeah. Also, elastic cuffs. I've
Right.
always
That's a
been
little.
I've always been yay on elastic cuffs. Some people say they
That
shouldn't be here. We
it's a
see
little
them.
it's a little earthly for me. I try to
We
avoid.
have seen them since the beginning. They have
I know.
always been there. They have always been there. I've I've
See,
I've I've read the countless think pieces on them. They've always been
Okay.
there. Yeah,
We,
they've
and we
always
gotta
been.
live. You gotta have some wiggle room if you're trying to do some stuff. Yeah, we gotta accept it.
Um, I don't know
So
what these
one,
two are wearing on their. They're wearing. They're like sort of something's hanging. It's like a. I don't know if it's a bag. I don't know if it's a deconstructed like Polaroid. You know, because we they use that all the time for props. I don't know what it is. But it's interesting that these two have the same thing.
thank you for bringing that up because that is the one thing that I was able to notice as well that brought any sort of unity with
Mm-hmm.
as far as equipment or dress.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also wondering what this is. Is this some like weird oversized dog tag identifier thing? Probably not. It's probably more like field equipment.
Yeah.
Um, but I love the prop. It's so functional and low end looking, and it's
Yeah.
just perfectly understated greebles on it too.
Yeah. Could they be Knox? Could they be? Who knows? Like, yeah, we'll never know what they are.
No.
Um, but like, yeah, I have no idea what they could be or what they're even made of. The only thing that I could think has a similar shape is a somehow really customized old Polaroid, which we've seen them use before. Nemec's little um navigator thing. What was it? Is
Yes,
a
yes. Oh God,
an
what
old
was that
Polaroid camera.
called? But it was like a like a hyperspace compass or whatever the hell.
Yeah, that's what it was.
But it was like yeah, it was the ancient style that they don't use anymore because everyone just uses their astrometric computers
Yeah,
now.
and I did pull like a closer view of them. It's kind of it feels like it's a bag, but I don't think that little flap moves. I think it's attached. So I think that's just the shape of whatever device this is, and I don't know what it is. I can't place it. But
Yeah, that does look
it's probably an old camera part. Knowing Star Wars, they just love old camera parts.
the old lightsaber Graflex. That's right.
I don't. I love that they cut right from this. They cut right to. I don't know if you noticed. They cut right to the Imperials. I just wanted to show like their little um
Caviar.
catered their little catered lunch that they're having. I just thought that it was funny that we spent time with these people who are starving, and then we cut right to the opulence of the empire with these like
I love
little canapes and with this like beautiful little red twill, just very shishi sort of bocaditos, little hors d'oeuvres and whatnot, canapes.
it's such a
But yeah,
perfect little statement for like where we are in the
hmm
timeline. It's like we're cutting to this room where yes, they're eating like bougie food while plotting the destruction of a world to build a world destroying device.
it's the
Uh,
banality. It's the banality of evil that they took that they
right.
had to take a little break for lunch and then
And
go
then we're
back to like plotting like the end of the galaxy. It's just
right. And we're juxtaposing that these like people are literally fighting each other for scraps instead of working
yeah.
together to fight that. Like, it's like
Yeah.
such poetry.
But we're nearing. Oh God, are we nearing the end? I don't think we. Oh God. Oh God, I just scrolled down and I just saw like what we have. To we've covered some of the things. We're going back to Chandrilla. We're seeing some more of their sort of regional dress. I just included much more of like the guests and whatnot. We're seeing a lot of pleating. We're seeing a lot of these like lush fabrics. The same sort of camel colors and blues and but in much more sort of jewel tones on Chandrilla. We just went past Brazo. It's a good shot of his shirt. It does look like a denim, but it just that sleeve to me is hanging in such a way that tells me it's like much softer. So I don't know. Will we ever know? I don't know. But my money is on wool. My money's on wool. Um, we cut back. We're now sort of speeding through these. We see Luthen, and I guess this is the next day, right? Because they're having breakfast. We see Luthen in a new sort of look here. I think it's a little more dressy because they're gonna have like their morning, like a little morning brunch. We see Perrin and Mon what look and feel to me like morning sort of day wear, which I thought was great. This is obviously a culture that I'm sure changes 2 and 3 times a day. It's much more
Oh yeah, I
regal.
mean,
It's much more, yeah.
it's a
You
culture that
dress
has a
you yeah.
it's a culture that has a 3-day wedding, so there's
Yeah,
gonna be some.
yeah. You dress for breakfast, you dress for lunch, you dress for dinner, and then you dress for drinks after. Like it just is what it is. Um, we have I just included this shop, which just reminded me of Star Wars Outlaws when I saw it. I was like,
Oh yeah,
I've been in this
Mina
place.
Rao. Mina Rao is
Yeah,
so Cheshire coded. It's
yeah,
amazing. It's Cheshire meets Kansas.
yeah. It's great. It's great. A couple more shots of like, oh, just underneath that is the I forget his name, but it's the person that was helping them on Mina Rao. He to
Helen?
me is Yeah, he to me is the one character out of all of these people where I'm like, well, this guy just looks like farmer. Like I think I've seen this guy at a Walmart. Like,
I think that's
um,
intentional.
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
think
yeah, yeah.
like he is like the everyman. He's supposed to be
Hmm.
like your everyman all American farmer guy.
Yeah.
Um, where I think that works. But it's interesting, like looking at his pants,
Hmm.
like that two tone that we have here, where it's like everything below the thigh, like starting just above the knee, gets darker,
Hmm.
almost like. Do you think that's a different material? Like there's like a functional
It
idea to that?
read
Like maybe.
read to me almost like fly fishing
Yes.
um
Like
uh
maybe he gets wet, like he wades.
waders. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're about this they're about I mean they're about the height of of the hay or the grain. Not really, but sort of. He also doesn't he drive like a
Brasso.
tractor?
Sorry, Brasso's pants have it too. Look.
Oh, that's right. His are definitely two-tone. I don't think it's like a rubberized thing, and I don't think this gentleman's are either, but it evokes that kind of that thing like waders, but I don't think they are. I think the pants are two-tone. Yeah.
Maybe they have some nasty bugs in that in
Maybe.
the
That's a good
fields,
point.
active or something.
Maybe it
But
has
I
to be
love it.
thicker. Yeah.
Yeah, I love his jacket too, as simple as it is. Just the fact that they added like the little elements, like the color sewn into the collar and things like that.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh yeah, you were
Elevate.
talking about that, right? That's sort of your kind of exploring, right?
Yeah, I do. I want to add that
It's a good.
to one of my jackets too.
That's a really easy thing. It's a really easy thing. I would call that an applique. Like it's not even like a it's something that could be very easily done. Even done by hand if you wanted to do that. And I'm
Yeah,
more than happy to walk you through it if you'd
thank you.
like.
With all this, my time after Andor ends, I'm gonna finally learn how to do some sewing projects.
It's fun. It's such a like it's such a great thing. I'm not great. I've made a few things. Um, I haven't made them to the degree that I wanted to. That was in my head. I had to simplify them down, but we all got to start somewhere. And I'm now that I don't have access to a machine. I feel like I've broken the hurdle of like hand sewing, and I actually really like enjoy it. Kate does it all the time. She That's how she learned. A lot of the times that's how she figures stuff out is by hand sewing. So it's a skill to unlock, and it's something not to be afraid of, because once you learn like a good stitch, like I use the what's it called, a back stitch. Like all your stitches will be uniform, they'll all be straight, like as long as you follow the stitch. If you do a straight stitch, you're going to be all over the place.
Mm.
But if you do a back stitch, it's in the stitch. Like it's gonna want to. That's what it does. It goes back to go forward, and that's how it just guides you. Like there's no way you can sort of do a curved line or anything. It'll just guide you straight. So it's definitely something I encourage everyone to try. So next up, we have I included the shot of Cyril because of the tie. Here, if you zoom in, you could see that it's a little window. Tie comes out from that little slit, and it is amazing. It
And I
might even
love
be just
here.
folded. underneath, like a tie, when you tie a tie, there's like that back little strip. It could even be just be one strip that starts at the back, comes out the loop, and then down the front.
Yeah,
Um,
it's literally hanging like an earthly tie, but it's using
mhm,
that little window to do it.
mhm,
I
yeah.
love this. You can see, this is the first time. So I think this is episode 2. This is actually the very first time we see Cyril in season
Hmm.
2, and you can see it in it being communicated in what he's wearing in the cut versus the last time we saw him working at the Bureau of Standards. It's a little bit elevated. It's a little bit slicker. It's not as slick as the
Hmm.
guys from the Ministry of Enlightenment, but it's a step in
Hmm.
that direction. It's immediately telling the viewer that he's moved up in the world.
He's such a job's worth too. He's like there's this like, I don't want to say smugness. It isn't smugness. He's proud of where he is. And him saying like, I used to sit in one of those. I used to sit in that desk right there, like that console right there. There's like something about him that's like, he's such a little job's worth. He's such a little like wormy dude, but there's something, I don't know. There's something
A
that
newly
is
promoted
endearing.
manager.
Yeah, but there's also something endearing about it because he's just kind of like he's not like, he's not, there's no
I
greatness
firmly,
in
I
him,
am firmly in the camp that Cyril is not a villain in my eyes at all.
He
He
has a
is.
moral compass. Yeah.
We're gonna do a whole other podcast episode on that, or else I'm completely gonna derail
Yeah, yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah. We should, because he's got a great arc, and I am following you. I'm following your thread that he would have. I think he would have turned. But yeah. Anyway, I
100%.
think as well that it was being broadcast, but he just never got there. The other detail that I wanted to show was his little like ID badge, which is a very corporate thing that you have to wear. Your ID badge is also coming out of the pocket from a slit, and a loop.
Ooh.
So that's just how these things attach. I love that they came up with that solution so that they wouldn't have to clip on a thing. It looks very corporate. It looks very sort of like cubicle hell, but in a way that kind of is Star Warsy and different.
You know what I'm thinking, Billy? Like for us as customers, like, short of getting custom made shirts with like that hole and that piece of metal on it, I bet we could create the illusion of this with magnets.
Yeah, I think so.
Like just getting metal pieces with magnets behind them, and like
Yeah,
I'm sitting here thinking, how can I make this tie and make this
yeah.
look? Like I
I think
really
you're
want
right.
like that.
I think you're right. Also, like, we might be also overthinking it in that like these costumes aren't made to be worn every day. They're made to be functional for the shot. So this could also we might be overthinking this altogether. Yeah.
Much like 90% of my Instagram posted content, like that costume could not survive more than 5 minutes. It's just for the shot. So
Oh. Okay.
most of my
Oh
my
no.
downsides are not super functional at all. I'm
Oh
just there.
no.
I'm a photography first guy. Like that's like
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's my
I
dirty
do.
secret.
That's why I iterate so much. If you've caught that, like I've been building my partisan for year. Like I've been building this merchant for just about as much time because I'm always like iterating and like it has to feel good or else I can't get in the headspace. Like um for me, like I'm always thinking like I'm gonna take this out, so like it's gotta be. So that's why I'm always like changing it up, iterating, moving things, like change this belt for this, change this strap for this, like try to figure out how to attach a strap to something rather than just have it hanging, or else like it'll always be falling. Like all of those things, like I have to work out before I can say this is the one. Like this is the finished one. Otherwise I would go nuts with like things like a strap coming off my shoulder and I gotta always be doing this like for the whole
Oh,
day.
yeah.
Like I can't do that. Like I just
You've
can't do
just
it.
lost you've just lost all respect for me. I know. But my
No,
straps
no,
are
no, no. Of
in my
course
pants,
not. Yeah.
and they came out 3 seconds later.
Of course not. Of course not. Um but yeah, we get some more of Chandrilla. We get some more of that shop, sorry, and some more of Chandrilla. This is their sort of outing.
I love
Uh
this.
yeah, I really loved the costumes for this hiking day.
Yes. I was sitting, so I've been watching my wife loves Andor. She thinks Star Wars is okay, but she's absolutely on the Andor train. And I was watching this episode with her, and she called out immediately. She was like, "Oh, this is like 17th century pastoral Britain. Like they're out on an outing." Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought it
Mm-hmm.
was so interesting because going back to the cultural influences of Shangri-La, like you were mentioning up top, we always see Japanese influences, but like we see Japanese influences everywhere in Star Wars. So it's
Yeah.
not like super unique to Shangri-La.
Right.
I thought the Nordic observation on the hair was super interesting. I never thought of that before, and I think you're dead on. And I always thought when I saw more traditional spaces, like particularly around the daughter and the wedding and those ancient traditions, I saw as like Hellenic, like
Mm-hmm.
Greek kind of like
Mm-hmm.
influences.
Mm-hmm.
And then here we have um, this very pastoral British Empire kind of looks like.
It
That's what I
is.
say. This like you just slightly modify some of these shots, and this could be like from a Jane Austen movie. Like
Absolutely. I love that these hats only come out for this hike, and I love that these sticks or whatever they are only come out for these hikes. So these are what I'm thinking are, traditional Chandrilan sort of things, and that's why it's sort of incorporated into a wedding weekend, let's say. And this is them sort of celebrating their like ancestry through this
yeah,
wedding. These like
Vel,
these
Vel
rituals, these like, yeah.
Absolutely. Vel calls it out very directly. This is
Hmm.
basically like some sort of like a cultural pantomime that they're doing.
Hmm.
Like she's like, what happens when we get to the top? Like, oh, we're all cleansed of our sins and like something
Yeah.
something. Like literally they have that conversation. She's like, this hike is dumb. Why are we doing
Yeah.
this? Like,
Yeah. I hate this. But she just misses her girlfriend.
yeah, we
Um,
all we all
we
do.
all we get to the domesticity section here with Dedra and Cyril.
Yes. And I wanted to add that shot just because I love that we see in their little Coruscant ideal apartment, we see Cyril wearing an apron as he's preparing.
Hmm.
It's so 1950s, but I love
Yeah.
that
The
this
the
they're
role reversal.
100%. Like he understands an approximation to what domestic life should be so much better than her, because we know that
Yeah.
Deidre never had that growing up in a Hitler youth, like
Yes.
Imperial Kinderblock. Yeah. So I love seeing that. Like he's so much more concerned with like the placement of things, and then it's literally in his costume visually represented by like he's the one wearing the apron in this scene.
Hmm. Yeah, I love also the somebody did a post that they were like that someone like Dedra has been, because of her upbringing and her involvement with the empire, has just been beaten down, and they're too far in for anything else, right? I think the same with Luthen, and I love that they both in season one, Luthen has a sort of practice smile shot as he's getting dressed and he's putting on that, like, his lace front wig.
Yep.
And so does Dedra. She has that moment where she has to like perform a smile, and they're just so locked in into like their actual life that anything outside of it feels alien even to them, and they are uncomfortable in their own skin. And I thought that parallel was great. Not that there's much of a parallel between them, but I thought that was cool to see.
So you're talking about the mirror shot where Dedra is
Hmm.
choosing to wear white or to wear black, and she's practicing
Hmm.
her. And you're
Hmm.
right. She's so much less practiced with that friendly social smile because that's not a part of her job. Like she has to have that stone face as an ISB agent. So she's not as good at it as Luthen is. But
Hmm.
in hindsight, now understanding what this scene is about and what this dinner with his mother is really about,
Hmm.
it's actually what you said is perfect. It's a perfect parallel to Luthen because, like Luthen, he's preparing to go work an asset.
Hmm.
She's coming in here to be like, you control your son. Now I control you, and
Hmm.
I'm going to use him for something.
Yeah.
she's working. It's not just domestic, she's working
Hmm.
right now.
Yep.
And that's something that, of course, we would never have realized watching this arc alone, but hindsight is 2020.
Yeah. I also included just under the shot of him with the apron. I included when he's coming back in with the groceries a little bit before his mother comes in. He's just got a tote bag, and the tote bag's got a greebly.
It's
Like
got a
I
little
could have just
creepy.
I could have just done with a tote bag. Like that's fine. But it's cool that it has a greebly, but I like that there's a tote bag in there. I don't think we've ever really seen a tote bag. I've never felt that a tote bag was
Oh my
not
God.
in universe because it's so simple and it's usually made of like natural materials, natural fibers. But this one, maybe it's a Coruscant, and they're going to the Coruscant M&S, and that's the bags that they have with like
I
these
was
cool
gonna say
greeblies.
the other side is like NPR pledge drive or whatever, but like that
Yeah.
for NPR listeners.
But yeah, I thought it was cool. Am I gonna add a greebly to my tote bags? Yeah,
Hell yeah,
probably. What
do
are they
it.
gonna do? Throw me in
This
jail?
right. You're going to tote bag jail. This next shot, when Edie, Cyril's mother, first appears,
Mm,
we've got this one screen grab up, but there's I want to talk about both of them.
okay.
And if it's the last damn thing I talk about with this arc, because this is just I think it's just so fascinating. And the first thing, so I'm going to start with Cyril and what we see Cyril wearing here. It's very much in line with a lot of. I think we've seen him wear this exact suit in season one, and he
Mm-hmm.
has many suits just like this in different colors, potentially different fabrics. But if you look at the cut of
Mm-hmm.
that suit with that piece up the middle covering the closures, it's got the neck, it's got a full like kind of like turtleneck with that strap
Mm-hmm.
closure, and it has the diagonal pockets around the breast and then further pockets
Mm-hmm.
at the waist. That's the exact pattern of an imperial jumpsuit. And in
That's
this
I
show,
didn't even think. Yeah.
it's the exact pattern of the Imperial Army uniforms that they use in Andor and the Imperial Security Forces uniforms they use in Andor. And I think that is the costuming department is telling us something about him. He it's so we saw him wear this a lot in season one. In season two, in those shots we just looked at where he's at the office and he's at the Bureau of Standards, he's not wearing this anymore. He's
Mm-hmm.
wearing the classed up, more Coruscant style suit.
Mm-hmm.
Later on, when he's on Gorman, he's not wearing this. He's wearing classed up Gorman clothes.
Mm-hmm.
But when he's home, when he's back to being himself, he
Mm-hmm.
defaults to this suit. And
Mm-hmm.
it's telling us where he thinks his loyalties are. He is
Mm-hmm.
like, I am in an Imperial uniform, even though I am not in an Imperial uniform.
He is. He's a
It,
fanboy through and through.
it's very deliberate, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's um and
And he
yeah, we
always
see it.
has been. Like even the the customization and upgrades that he did to his corpo uniform are
Yeah.
just to sort of be a bit more sharper and more buttoned up and more had a more imperial look. The other corpos were kind of sagging and a bit too big, and like it just seemed like something you pull off the rack, an off the rack uniform. But he's always had this in him where he's
And
kind of projecting that.
exactly. And he more so than any other character has been established. Like he doesn't do these. What he wears has intentionality to it. Like
Hmm.
I mean, in story, like the character Cyril is thinking about this, and he thinks about how he's presented. We've seen that, to your point, the very first moment he was introduced with tailoring his Morlana One security uniform. Like it's all so intentional, not only from the filmmaker's perspective, but from the character's perspective as well.
Yeah.
What do we think of
Then
Eve?
we of Edie. I mean, we've
Yeah.
seen her in this costume, right? I think. I mean, she's an overbearing mother, right? A mother of one baby boy. Like he's always been mama's boy. Like I don't think he has siblings, and we don't know what happened to his father. Probably left. Um,
Well, she tells a little story about that, but it's who knows if any of it's true. But what I found so interesting and why I wanted to bring up this shot of her here and what she wears to their dinner.
mhm.
Um, and the juxtaposition that it has against how um, Deidre is dressing, where Deidre is very much while it's a little
Hmm.
bit more color, she looks great. Like Deidre has like contemporary Coruscant fashion. And
Hmm.
what I see with this orange dress with the pattern and like I can't tell if it's actually got any texture to it or if those lines on her dress are literally just like almost print like there's no like
Hmm.
it's like flat almost like to
Right.
me it looks like it reminds me a lot of like one of my grandmas who thought she was very stylish and probably was a little bit like 50 years ago but she's still pulling the same thing out of the
Yep.
closet and she still thinks it's stylish now
Yep.
it's not flattering the way it hangs on her the lines on this orange dress almost look like it's being pulled from animated Star Wars like
Hmm.
Clone Wars era, like 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 pre Empire Republic kind of fashion, and
Yeah.
she's just completely outmatched against Detra with this.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you put her in a if you put her in a home that had like avocado green like
Oh,
homewares and pictures and things
Palm
like that, it's a very
Springs.
sort of yeah, yeah, maybe even plastic on the couch. Like
Mhm.
it's very of an era, and I definitely take your point. Is that she has brought out what she thinks is her fineries, but they're dated and they're a bit old and a little bit shabby, and she doesn't look great in it. But she's that's that's what she has. And facing an adversary like Dedra, who has everything at her disposal and is a modern working woman, like she's just never going to be able to combat her in any way.
And she gets
Um,
eaten alive.
yeah, yeah, quickly too. I pulled some shots of the. I think this is just before the wedding. What would probably we would call the dinner
Reception.
before the dinner before the wedding, or the rehearsal dinner is what I
Oh
guess
yeah,
we
yeah,
would
yeah.
call it, right?
Long time
Um,
to
as we get
celebrate.
closer to the wedding, well, what I was noticing is that the looks from all the all of the guests and things like that, they start to include um, what looks like shoulder armor, but it's obviously they're obviously
Mhm.
soft goods, but it is um, kind of throwing to armor, but for a culture that has no need for it. So it's very sort of performative, and it's very kind of it's much more adornment than it is anything else, and we see it throughout. We see it on the guests, and it's usually in what looks like shoulder armor and what looks like sort of rank ropes. But obviously, these people have never fought anyone, so so it's all just kind of, I'm sure, very traditional. So now we have. I just included some shots of Mina Rao just because we see more so just so we see that same sort of color palette of these the the blondes and the blues. Um, it's
And even
throughout.
the Reds tying together even for the opening with Cassian's pilot
Yeah,
uniform back to B2 Emo's red here or the
yeah,
red shoulders on these like fun little dwarf men who are wonderful. I love these
yeah. I love
aliens in
that
this.
guy. Good sort of work aprons. Yeah. These people are just salted. Oh, I'm going to say salt of the earth. They're salt of mineral, right? Um, they're
It's all
just
to the game.
workers. They're community. Um, and there's a lot of great looks, but you can see there's a sort of uniform color. This I included this random guy with a shirt on. This is a wool shirt.
I see what you're saying. It does give that denim look, but it looks like it hangs and flows a little bit looser, a little bit lighter, I
Just it
mean.
just feels a little softer to the drape. kind of bunches up in the same way. I was looking at Brasso's sleeves, and especially like around the shoulder seam, and I'm like, denim would be stick straight there. Like there would be no sort of gathering and bunching. There would be no draping there. And if you look at this random guy, this random cool guy, his sleeve right at the shoulder seam is right at the shoulder seam is doing a sort of similar thing. That's the only thing that tipped me off where I was like, this is sounding all alarm bells. Last little detail is the wedding dress. Oh, wow. This is all hand beaded, by the way. So it is couture, not only in universe but also in real life. This is all hand beaded. We see the details of her braids. I think one gets cut at when they are engaged, and then the other one is cut when they are married. That's their, I think that's their tradition. We see her husband, or her husband to be, the boy, also has this sort of head wrap, sort of a rope thing, which is another design that I was seeing around the shoulders of people, which are used in sort of military senses, but these people have no need for it. It's funny that they still include it in their formal wear. So he has this sort of rope headdress thing with two sort of sides of it hanging down, which kind of mirror Lyda's braids. So I think that's also like a traditional thing. He's also got a
And
great
it's
suit, also wearing white. Yeah.
and the head rope. So it's interesting. I was looking through this episode in detail. So we were all discussing planning, bounds or cosplays that were inspired by the Shendrillin wedding. I was actually looking at first to see if Shendrillin men ever wore jewelry, because I was trying to figure out how to add more gold to a
Hmm.
look. They don't, and these headdresses are the closest thing to jewelry that we see. And
Right.
what I noticed is it's specifically the groom
Hmm.
and the fathers of the bride and groom who wear them. So it's only for the men who are involved in the actual ceremony that wear these.
Right.
And what's so, I mean, it's very, very, very Japanese looking to me. The style where it has
Yeah.
almost this like folded piece of paper. I'm sure it's cloth, but
Yep.
it has the look of paper tied to the back of the head, which kind of mimics a lot of like male hairstyles you would see in
Hmm.
like ancient Japanese eras. I'm not a
Yeah, like
cultural
samurai buns and
yeah,
whatnot.
exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's so interesting, and I'm just looking at it closer. The way it's almost actually like three pieces coming out from the side, one across the forehead, one that ties under the chin, and one that drapes down even farther on the shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's just such a beautiful, beautiful
Yeah, and
little.
again, in those little sort of caps to the sleeves, kind of evoking sort of armor, but obviously, to no
Yeah.
to no purpose. And then we see, then we see the angel of death.
Yes. Wearing white, almost white,
uh,
off cream,
I
not black.
loved it. I loved this. When I saw it, I was like, "Oh, okay, so you're gone, right? Tay is gone."
Cinta,
um,
Cinta's little driver uniform here is so interesting because it's very evocative to me of prequels Coruscant styles. Like
mhm,
it's very simple. It's got the one folded over part in the front, and like the cap feels very somewhere between like Imperial officer cap and like Cloud City coated
yep,
almost. Which vibes with the kind of car that she's driving to, that like kind of Cloud City feel of an air car.
yeah. Yeah, it's such a perfect costume for like what seems to be a very sort of upscale uniform, you know?
Yeah, she's clearly
Um,
the help.
yeah, yeah, but also it's almost like a train porter. Also, like it's a stewardess on a yacht. Like there's so many things that sort of that it made me think of, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. What a perfect little cover. When it happened, I hate that we didn't get to see it, but for I would have loved to see it.
To see the deed be done. Yeah, it's like I
Yeah,
always
or
find
at the very least, just the just the vehicle sort of bending around like a mountain, and we just see a flash.
Yeah, is that
That's
what you think? You think she crashed the
yeah.
car and she made it look like an accident? Smart.
Oh
Something else.
yeah, probably. I think so. I think there is a point where she has an injury later in the season, and I think they're tying it to this, where I think they made it look like a
Ooh.
crunch. Yeah, she's got her arm wrapped, but I don't think so because that's a year later. So I don't think she would still be nursing wounds.
She also tells Vel when they're finally reunited that like she got really hurt and had to like take a year off to recuperate. Did she
Mhm.
almost kill herself in staging this accident? That's
Maybe to make it seem like, a
to make it
complete accident.
believable.
Yeah.
I love that idea. Like
There
I will
couldn't
like
be any, yeah, there couldn't be
well
any sign of foul play. Yeah. So maybe
to
she
like
had to get really hurt herself just to, you know, just to sell the story.
that and that level of loyalty and or manipulation on Luthen's part, like tearing them apart. Oh my
She's
god,
a
I love
she's
it.
a warrior. She's a miracle. And with that, that's episode 1, 2, and 3 in the costuming stuff that we saw. I'm sure that you know, would love to have you on with Ceit as well. And we'll do the full video and everything. We could do that at some point. Um, and we're probably going to talk about season 2 of Andor for ages when we
For
do sort of deeper
years to
dives.
come.
So yeah, for when we do deeper dives on things, um, you know, you're welcome back with open arms whenever you want to talk about this stuff.
Thanks, Billy. If
So
you
why don't you
can't tell,
tell
I like
everyone?
talking.
Yeah, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you if you want?
I am at Midrim Rebel on Instagram. I also on Blue Sky when I remember to post there, which I should do more often, as we all should. But yeah, I'm Burgundy 5. I'm just some guy on the internet who likes dressing up like Star Wars and hanging out with this guy. So here, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks, sir. Thanks for doing this. We're going a little bit rogue. This is we recorded this on our own, so we'll see how it goes. Crossing my fingers for everything that goes correctly. Anyway, thank you to Raimi. He didn't produce this one, but thank you to Raimi anyway, because you will have to do some work in the back end for this one. I'm very sorry. And thanks to the Dad Batch for having us on their network. I'm Billy Maddox. You can find me at Billy Maddox on Instagram and on Blue Sky. Again, when I remember to post, we should all sort of plan our exodus at some point. And remember that a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away can be right here and right now.